Hey everybody, welcome to my video on comparative advantage and trade. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at two countries with the stereotypical and strongly overused guns and butter analogy. We choose two goods and simplify our economies to just those two sectors. And we compare two countries and their productive capacity. You get those PPFs. In this case, and often, I simplify it to a straightened production possibility of frontier, suggesting a constant marginal cost. We could repeat all of this upcoming analysis with increasing opportunity cost, but it would get significantly less simple. So, one thing to note is that country A has an absolute advantage in producing butter. Why? Because it can just produce more of it. Country B, the most butter it can possibly produce is 5. Country A can produce 10. It's got an absolute advantage in butter production. Note that neither country has an absolute advantage in gun production. Absolute advantage, though, doesn't actually help us all that much when we talk about trade. It helps us to know about the size of an economy, but not what the economy will specialize in. What we need for that is we need to compare the opportunity cost for countries producing guns and opportunity cost for each country producing butter. So, let's look at it first. For country A, opportunity cost for producing guns. When we measure opportunity cost, we're going to look at effectively a shift from this point up here to this point. And when they do, they give up 10 butter and they gain 10 guns. 10 butters per 10 guns. The 10s cancel out. It's 1 butter per gun. Country A, every gun costs 1 butter. What's their opportunity cost of butter? Well, we're going to be imagine moving from this point of all guns, no butter, over to this point of all butter, no guns. You get 10 guns divided by 10 butters, which is 1 gun per butter. Every butter costs 1 gun. Now, it won't always be ones. I just did it that way for this example to keep it simple. Let's look at country B because the slope here is not 1, so it won't be quite as simple. In country B, the opportunity cost of guns, they give up 5 butter and gain 10 guns, so 5 butter per 10 guns is half a butter per gun. Each gun costs half a butter. What's their opportunity cost of butter? It's 10 guns per 5 butter is 2 guns per butter. Every butter costs them 2 guns. I like to make these little opportunity cost matrices at first because it helps me to keep everything straight. Once I have this, it's really easy. I can look at the opportunity cost for butter between countries. I tell you, country A, butter costs 1 gun. Country B, butter costs 2 guns. Country A has a lower cost for producing butter. That gives them a comparative advantage in butter production. Now, if we look at gun production, country A, every gun costs a butter. Country B, every gun costs half a butter. Country B has a lower cost of gun production. And so country B will have a comparative advantage in guns. And so we can highlight that if we want to. Booyah, comparative advantage. Whichever, when you look at the goods, the one with the lower cost per good has the comparative advantage. Lower cost of gun, comparative advantage. All right. So there's that. From comparative advantage, we can tell that A will specialize in butter production and B will specialize in gun production. We will always treat our countries as specializing in their comparative advantage. That's the way that trade makes sense. If we don't make this assumption, then they won't be able to find a trade that benefits both of them. But first, let's start looking at what trades will be acceptable. For country B, if B is going to sell guns to country A, B requires that they receive at least half a butter per gun. If the price were any lower, B could just make their own and have a better deal. But as long as you pay them at least their cost, they're willing to sell. Country A, on the other hand, their opportunity cost for a gun is 1 butter. That for them is going to be a maximum price. And so they are only willing to pay 1 or fewer butters per gun. Any higher price, and they would rather just make their own weapons. So combine these two together, greater than 1/2 butter per gun, less than 1 butter per gun, and you get this acceptable trade price range. Anything between those, both countries can agree to, and it will benefit both countries. So I'm going to put down some hypothetical trades. 25 butter per gun. Well, let's see. 25 butter per gun. Country A will like it because it's less than the 1 butter per gun, which is their maximum. So country A accepts. Country B, on the other hand, 25 over 100 is 1/4 butter per gun. That's less than their opportunity cost. It's not worth it to them, so they reject the deal. So get another trade. What if it's 60 butter for 50 guns? Country A's maximum price was 1 butter per gun. This is 1.2 butter per guns. Country A rejects, even if B would love this deal. Now, you have to find something in between this range up here. In this case, I could say 80 butter per 100 guns. Country A accepts because it's less than 1 for 1. Country B accepts because it's more than 1/2 for 1. And thus, that becomes an acceptable trade deal. So, I don't know if this has been helpful for you or not. Hopefully it has. If not, too bad. But good luck. It's going to be a big semester. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy econing.